If you ever go to an auction and you need someone to support you during that process, because often it's a high emotional area, and sometimes it's best to actually have someone else to do that business for you. You couldn't ask a better person. He's cool under pressure. Nothing can upset him at all. Impossible to upset. The only time you're going to get upset is when I put the stop on it, because once he gets going, you can't stop him. He just wants to kick. So on that note, big round of applause, Rich Harvey!
Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for, as David said, making the effort to come out tonight on a very wet night as everyone's open. Just make sure our technology is good. I'll try and stand out of the way so everyone can see me. If you want a copy of my slides, perhaps just on the feedback form, just write down. Send me a copy of the slides. Very happy to do that. I've got a lot of charts that I want to get through. As David said, I'm a buyer's education, a buyer's advocate. My company's PropertyBuyer has been going for 10 years. We've won a number of awards for excellence. But tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about how you can categorise infrastructure. And I just want you to ask yourself, what's the biggest challenge for you in moving forward? A lot of us want to buy a home or investment property, but we often think of excuses not to take that step. So I want you to think in the back of your mind, what is actually holding you back? Is it I can't get finance? Is it I can't afford it? Is it I'm scared? Is it I don't know what to buy? Ask whatever that question to yourself. But a lot of the time, I think the biggest issue is procrastination. So tonight, I'm just going to quickly look at the infrastructure events that are happening around Sydney. I'm going to talk a bit about some property strategies, how Sydney is going to perform in the next 12 months and beyond. It's a question on everybody's lips. How is Sydney going to go with that fantastic boom? Where's it going? And then I'll talk about some case studies. So, does that sound good? Great, excellent. So, where the infrastructure happens around you, there's a couple of things you can do. Do you go in early or do you go in late? My view is that there's really two ideal times to jump into an area when there's infrastructure happening. Really, even before it's announced is the ideal time, but knowing it's going ahead is the most important thing. I know a lot of investors have invested down in, say, down in South Australia with the Olympic Dam. That was going to be a great boom, but that didn't go ahead. So you've got to make sure you invest in something that's actually going to go ahead, so it actually has an impact. Look, some great examples of infrastructure projects that we've been in the past. The energy motorway, Auckland Hills jumped something like 30% when the energy was finally completed, because travel time is cut down to 14 minutes. So there's an example of something. As you know, in the West here, we've seen the light rail extension. A lot of suburbs have been particularly double chill from that. So, and in the future, you've just got to look down to the southwest around Leppington, where there's a new train station, or around Westmead Hospital, where there's a real medical precinct development. So all of those things are going to drive property prices. What are some of the negatives of infrastructure? Obviously, congestion. Too many developers come into an area and saturate the market. That's quite a consideration as an investor. You don't want to invest in an area just because the piece of infrastructure says it's good, and then see that the price of the property goes down and don't because it's oversupplied. And obviously, construction noise resource tax. Now, I think that's a really big one too for the Empire East extension. That's a really big one. Any time, there's a big negative around the exhaust stacks. So as long as you're not right on those stacks or right on those entry-exit points, you can still buy within close proximity to this infrastructure and do very well. On the positive side of infrastructure, obviously it creates jobs, good for the economy, good for rental return because you may have more tenants, reducing travel time, and property values should increase. The types of infrastructure that really are good for the long term are transport, education, medical, and business parks. I haven't got time to go through every bit of infrastructure tonight. I haven't got limited time to talk. But if you want some good information about the vision of Sydney and what's happening, there's this thing here called the Sydney Metropolitan Plan. You can just Google it. It's a government document. It's got a huge amount of information. We need to outline Sydney's vision for growth for the next 20 to 30 years and beyond. So I'm not sure if you know, but Sydney's population is around about 4.6 million at the moment. It's projected to grow by another 1.6 million people. So I guess it'll take you longer to get the Callagher office next time you come.
I think we're going to see it now on the roads.
You've done well to get here tonight. And over the next 20 years, we're going to see 900,000 extra people in Western Sydney. So that's a huge growth area. You know, we're growing at a much faster rate than any previous time in history. So we need to accommodate another 664,000 homes. So that's a lot of homes. You know? Now, where's that going to happen? So there's going to be what they call infill and then greenfield. So infill is rezoning, and then greenfield is the northwest and southwest areas. So there's some other stats on how fast Sydney is growing. You know, if you look at the last couple of decades, you can see, you know, we've been growing below 400,000. But look, the last 3 decades, almost up to 700,000, 800,000 people. So we're growing at a faster and cumulative rate. So add migration as well. Migration is going to be something to watch in the future. In terms of demographics, once again, the only thing to point out on this one is just the number. Fastest growing households are single person households. In 2011, only 36% of households were coupled with children. That's going to grow at a slower rate. And despite these trends, we're also going to see a still continuing demand for detached housing. So, you know, if you're buying in an area, consider the demographics, consider the types of people in the demographic that's going to live in the property. So again, just going back to the Sydney Metro Plan, I'll just point out a couple of key areas that are worth looking at here. I couldn't put this all, it's a really big slide, there's probably a couple of slides that we should hit on, but a couple of big areas, the northwest sector. So up around the top there, North Rouse Hill, Northwest, Castle Hill, that area up there, a lot of the farmland is being rezoned. So big 5-acre lots are being broken down into smaller areas. The biggest infrastructure there is the Northwest Rail link that will then connect up through the Beecroft, Epping, and then through the Chatsworth. So that's a really important one. We've also got the southwest, obviously Badgerys Creek. Badgerys Creek Airport. Obviously, a lot of infrastructure going in there. So that's a very, very significant area where we're going to see a lot of growth. And also down the southwest corridor down here. So just mentioned that into the train station, right down to Campbelltown. We're going to see a lot of growth in those areas. So, and in between there's lots of big infrastructure coming up. So it's really great to see that all of our hard spent stamp duty money is actually going towards something worthwhile in these projects. Major transport infrastructure that I mentioned. Badgerys Creek, M1, M2 extension. So that tunnel that's going to connect up the M1 up to the Northern Freeway and the M2, that's going to reduce travel time by about 15 minutes at 25 cents of traffic lights. That's a really, really important one. West Connects, as we know about locally here, that's going to be will provide improved travel time. The light rail through the city in the east, and the proposed light rail to Parramatta as well. So we don't just have 1 or 2 projects, it's just a huge number of billions and billions of dollars of projects that's going to impact property values around Sydney. So what should you avoid? Well, I've just picked a couple of highlighted suburbs you probably already know about. You don't want to buy one of these. Imagine delivering pizza to this place. So, Green Square, there's going to be around 30,000 dwellings approved for construction in that area. So it has been actually holding its value okay, but like me for one, I wouldn't be investing in that sort of market because the kind of property you can buy can be replicated so easily. So just, yeah. So I've got to say that the Sydney apartment market is not nearly as a major concern as, say, Melbourne or parts of Brisbane, where there is definitely going to be serious problems for those. What I want to talk about now is what's the prospect for Sydney's market going forward. So this shows, I've just got a couple of slides from my good friend Andy Wilson from Domain, just to show you what's been happening in Sydney and what's likely to be happening in the future. So if we look at the annual growth rate, so this is basically from about March last year to March this year, you can see Sydney is still tracking in positive territory at around 6.9%. Melbourne year on year is at 11.8%. Perth and Darwin are the 2 resource states that have negative capital growth on an annual basis. If you look at it over, say, how many years it is, over a 20-year period, just how many
phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
alright.
okay.
There we go, that's it. It's just a little button. That'll roll forward. If you look at the number of years, Sydney's annual growth has been negative. I mean, you can count on one hand, almost on one hand, six quarters where 6 years where it's been negative. Every other year it's been positive. So Sydney has these incredible bursts. You can see really strong bursts of growth, and that flatlines for a while. We don't tend to have this, like in Singapore or Hong Kong, where it really takes 20% off. And that's a really interesting phenomenon we have in the Sydney market. So it can give you some confidence that there's a good floor in our market. We do have a very resilient property market here in Sydney. And that's traditionally because we have been undersupplied for a long period of time. If you look at quarterly house price growth, if you look at quarterly house price over the last decade, you can see that we're just very touching. We're starting to get a couple of quarters of slightly negative growth. I expect during the winter period we're actually going to have positive growth because we're down on listings about somewhere between 20 to 25%. There's just such a shortage of stock, particularly in the blue-chip areas of the city. So this is a city-wide average, which hides a lot of variations, but I expect that we're going to see prices ticking up, possibly not much, but certainly positive territory by the end of the year. So if you can look at the Sydney median house prices, here we go.
Can everyone hear at the back okay as well?
Yes.
Just making sure everything's okay. Good. Yep.
Don't need an auctioneer's voice, Dave.
Sorry. Hello. My kids
see that
soccer field.
All right, so Sydney, we were slightly above $1 million for the median house price. We're just bit below that $1 million magic mark. Melbourne's next came off the rank at 726, and then we've got Canberra at 638, Darwin at 610. So look at the differentiation between Brisbane and Sydney. You're 2 for 1 basically in Brisbane. What was that? Bog off, buy one get one free. But Sydney is definitely the leader of the pack, and it always will be because we're financial capital of Australia, jobs and construction. But what you're going to see is capital growth moderating. It's not going to crash; it's just going to moderate, and then I think it's going to flatline for a couple of years. We're still seeing quite strong price growth in Melbourne. Again, that's going to come to a slowdown as well. Adelaide and Canberra, fairly subdued growth. I wouldn't be investing in those markets myself just because I think it's population growth is just too slow for my liking. Brisbane, I definitely think has legs. I think it's got some good potential going forward. So we've got also mixed speed economies in different markets. So each of these capital cities is driven by different things. The good thing about Sydney is our economy is quite robust. We have really low unemployment. I've got a slide on that, yes I do. Our employment level at the moment is quite good. So, keyboard. You got keyboard down? Yeah. Unemployment. So you see Sydney's unemployment year on year is the lowest of all the capital cities. If you look at Sydney house price growth versus unit growth, tracking fairly steadily, although we've seen a bit more of a spike in house price growth the last 12 to 18 months as well. So Sydney median unit price, 656. So a couple of regions, just to give you some sort of median values or median prices in different areas. Lower North Shore, pretty substantial price growth, 14%, median 2.3. City and East, just over 2 mil. Northern Beaches done quite well, 1.6 million. Inner West, 1.4. I really love the Inner West. I think it still always has great potential for renovation and for upside. But this is just a quarterly growth and year-on-year growth. So there's a number of different regions, all performing at different rates, as you can see. Surprisingly, even Blue Mountains gets good double-digit figures, as does the Central. I'll skip units and just go straight to some projections or. This is Domain's model or Domain's preference, model for where they see the market going. They basically think by the end of the year, we're going to have fairly moderate growth. I think their number is probably too low. They're suggesting around 2%. I think we'll probably end up at around a 4% growth this calendar year. Brisbane and Darwin around 3%, but Melbourne probably the leader of the pack at 5%. But we're not having a crash, you know. We're not in bubble territory. I think that's the message to take home. We're still in positive growth territory, but a much more moderated growth rate going forward. All right, I'd just like to cover off now a couple of strategies that you can consider using in developing your own portfolio and moving forward. A couple of things you can look at is simply buying and holding, adding value, granny flat, subdividing, renovation, or development. Now, the strategy you pick is really going to depend on a number of things. It's going to depend on your knowledge of the market, your experience, your skill, your available time, and how much money you've got to spend. But just a tip here, don't run ahead of your capacity. We all want to be budding property developers, but I've seen a lot of people lose their shirt trying to build a block of 8 units when they've only ever bought 1 unit. So think about the strategy, what's going to fit with your style, and get some professional help around you. The other message I think to take home is we've all got a lot of lazy equity sitting in our homes. You know what I mean by lazy equity? So our prices of our properties have risen around 50%. We can recycle some of that. We can recycle that equity and make it work for you. So if you're a smart investor, it's really good to get that moving for yourself. All right, a couple of strategies. Buying established property. This is my favourite. Low risk, good solid returns. It generally represents a lot better value than buying brand new off the plan. I'm not against off the plan, but probably for our clients, probably less than 5% of what we buy is brand new, particularly because you're paying too much developer's margin. 5 or 10% that we do buy for our clients are because we've negotiated some really good pre-sale numbers for the developer, and it's in a really good area, and we've been able to pick the best units in the block. But established property, down as easy, you can get finance on it quite easily. Great long-term strategy. Areas where I'd be buying at the moment, I'd still consider Sydney, absolutely, as I say, close to infrastructure, but also consider Newcastle, Wollongong and Brisbane. I think those markets really have a lot of potential going forward. Here's a quick case study on a dual living property. We've recently done a number of these for our clients in the Newcastle region. Again, only an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Sydney. It's got a really strong population growth. It's the 7th largest population in capital cities in Australia. We do what's called a 4+2 bed, or you can do a 3+3 bed living design. Total package is around $670. Includes everything. It's basically tenant ready. We're able to get around $820 return on that, which equates to a 6.4% yield, which is a very, very strong yield compared to what we can buy for in Sydney. And the design's also quite clever. You can see here, it's just got a simple firewall strapped through the middle of it. Got the 2 bed on that side, and the 4 bedrooms on the other. So again, an efficient use of space. Both have a little outdoor alfresco area, integrated dining, living, and kitchen areas as well. So really, really good design. Granny flats. Who's got a granny flat here? A couple of people? I do. They're fantastic. Great way to improve your cash flow. If you're lucky enough, you can buy a property with a granny flat. They don't work in all areas and all properties. The approval process is quite easy to get. If you use a private certifier, you can actually get it done in less than 2 weeks to get the approval. But there are a couple of pros and cons. One is obviously you're going to lift the rent on the property. It adds value if you do it well, and you make sure the privacy angles are good. And it's providing an affordable rental, so you always have a rental. The place I've got, always had a rental. Never had a week rate. It's fantastic. The only cons that you're going to have with it is it reduces the size of the backyard. You've got to consider when you do sell it eventually, or if you choose to sell it, who do you sell to? So you can sell to an investor, or you can sell to an extended family. There's plenty of families who've got noisy teenagers or literally grandma that might want to actually live in the property. So, but you can't subdivide these. You can't split the titles with these types of properties. And the other warning is just be careful with building units. There's still some dodgers out there. But overall, a really good strategy. Renovations, another one of my favourites. In the market for Sydney going forward, this is one of the key strategies I think we can use. Buying a property and renovating it, doing it succinctly, not going over the top, but just renovating to that market in that area and really adding a lot more value. I think it's a fantastic way to go forward. Another thing you can consider doing is subdivision. A little bit more advanced. A lot of the sites that you find in Sydney have been picked over, but there are areas in the outskirts. Occasionally there's areas in the midfield, areas where you can buy a subdivided property, but a great way to do it. But I've got to say, there's a lot of traps for the unwary. My first subdivision took a days, 528 days in council. So I think I hold the record for Hornsby Council and actually getting it through. But it was a great start for me because it enabled me to free up equity that I didn't otherwise have, and I could go forward and then buy a lot more properties. I won't go into development. There's a whole bunch of other strategies that we use for our clients as well. I can talk to you after the meeting or offline or really something like that, other things. But just a quick 60-second wrap of what is a buyer's agent, for those of you who don't know. We do a 7-step process that we take every client through. Whether you're buying a home, investment property, or development site, we basically understand your goals. We provide really a tailored service. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's very much a tailored service for what you're looking for, it's about your goals and your objectives. Sit down with you, do a fact find. We then, once you've engaged us, provide you with a lot of research. We have access to a number of research material houses, and also we have an internal research analyst on that team. So we give you the research to recommend an area. We then shortlist particular properties in that area that will suit your brief. We have great relationships like with Callaghers and other agents to find properties both on and off market. We evaluate them, we appraise them, we come and look at them. If you like one of them, then we negotiate, we secure, we get the best price possible, liaise with your solicitor for contract review, best and build inspections, and they arrange for what the property manager recommends that process. So it's an end-to-end process, and we charge a flat fee for doing all of that. Along the way, we have won a bunch of awards. I think we're up to 27 awards, and we're finalists again this year in the R&D awards. So but we really love what we do for our clients. So I have a team of specialists. They all focus on different areas. As I mentioned, just almost wrapping up, Brisbane, as I mentioned, I think is definitely another market on the rise. We've been recently buying a lot of properties in that 300 to 400 price bracket. Just ordinary existing properties and getting around 6% yields in some really good suburbs. So, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, the question to you is what kind of investor or home buyer are you? Are you one that just kind of sits by and does nothing? Are you one that's proactive, or are you just a procrastinator? So, if you're down at this end of the spectrum, climb the ladder and become proactive, because I always find it's the proactive investors that really win at the end of the day. And also build a team around you. It's really important that you get a bank or a finance broker on your side, an accountant, solicitor, a QS specialist, a property manager. You really need a team of people around. Don't try and do it on your own. My details are there. I think you've got information packs. I'd love to answer any questions.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Round of applause. Facebook at the moment, so you don't have to look it up because you're actually here, so that's good pointless. But if you ever go back, make sure you give it a bit of a like. Whoever we bring to the floor, Rich Harvey comes with a plethora of awards. Now, when you do get awards given, they're given for real reasons. And our industry is through the Real Estate Institute, and Rich Harvey has won endless awards. He won last year the Woodrow Waite Award, and that's a huge award. Sorry.
I had no idea I was going to win.
That, and that's because normally you sort of get like hints that something might be happening. But that's a fabulous award to win, and that's a nostalgic. No, it is a nostalgic moment for this. So Richard is a very
So it's like just your life.
it is, and it's a whole background of who you are, where you come from,
Everyone's trying to guess
who's who in the zoo. Okay, now we are on time. Things are moving in the right direction. How are we all going? I saw everyone scribing and taking a few notes down there. Have you got lazy equity sitting in your property not doing anything, perhaps? Or maybe this is the time to activate the can, as it were. Another gentleman here is Daniel Farrell. Now, Daniel is from the NAB, and he's come, I don't know, this is our third investment night that we've had, or information night. Questions about the banks. What's going on there? Like, where is this all going? When is it going to stop? What's happening in that world? There's only one person to actually answer all this. Big round of applause for Daniel.
Thank you very much for that very kind welcome. So, and thank you very much for your time tonight. So, I'm Daniel Farrell. I work as part of our global markets team at NAB. So, speaking to customers and investors about what's going on, I guess, in the interest rate market and mainly markets globally, just to give them a fair idea. Because what's happening overseas is particularly important what's happening in Australia. We are just a small cog in the big world that is the global economy. So, no slides for me or anything like that to follow, but I do have some other representatives here from NAB. We've got Louise Papito and Adrian Islas who can answer some questions if I can't answer them later on, so I might bring them up later. But just been asked to talk about three key things, so the economy, interest rates, and access to credit for borrowers, which obviously has been a pretty topical thing and something that's, I guess, become more evident in the last 6 to 12 months for borrowers. I mean, firstly with the economy, I mean, the key takeaway in our view of the economy's doing pretty well. So I know that the RBA did cut rates earlier this month, first time in about 12 months, but on the whole, you guys sort of through some of the reasoning for that. But the economy is doing reasonably well, and we've got full confidence, I guess, in that moving forward. I mean, we get GDP figures tomorrow. NAB's expecting 3% for the year and 1.1% for the quarter. So it's reasonably strong figures. We'll see how we go, and I will put my hand up and say I'm an economist, and if I knew exactly where rates were going, I wouldn't be speaking to you tonight. I'd be an interest rate trader, I'd be the richest person on the planet. But in terms of that, that's what we see for tomorrow. GDP growth is important, but it's one of really the three key things that the RBA is looking for. So the other two are unemployment and inflation. So inflation was the key reason why they cut interest rates earlier this month. We had a really poor reading inflation. In fact, we got deflation in the first quarter. And whether or not that persists or stays where it is going to be probably one of the key drivers in the interest rate market moving forward. NAB's house view, I guess, is that we'll see it probably improve next quarter and then probably stay pretty steady, as opposed to, deteriorating further or getting much better in the short term. The other thing is unemployment. Unemployment in the last few years hit 5.7%. It's been tracking down over the last 6 months, and it's sort of heading towards that full employment space of about 5%. Typically, won't see unemployment rates below 5%. You say that that's usually full employment. So reasonably good figure there. So if you've got, two of the really three key things that the RBA is looking for, then going reasonably well, and then there is that inflation piece. To be honest, NAB's house view is that we don't see any further interest rate cuts, but we are at odds with the market, and the market is pricing in pretty much more than one interest rate cut to come from the RBA. So I guess that's an important thing. As I said, our house view is we don't see it based on some of the data that we've collected, but to be completely honest, the market is pricing in at the moment. You can see that in some of those fixed rates, particularly that are being offered with customers at the moment. I guess a couple of the other effects, the election, this is the longest election campaign in history, and that is having somewhat of an effect on the businesses. So we expect maybe the quarterly earnings not to be great over this time, but we don't expect the RBA really to do anything until the election's out of the way. And that's why most people, that market is pricing in potential change in interest rates from the RBA in August. As I said, we don't personally see it, that's where the market's sort of placed at the moment. That's, I guess, Australia. As I said, Australia, while it's very important in influencing interest rate outcomes for everyone, Australia's only 1.5% of the global GDP. We are influenced by what happens overseas, particularly out of what happens in the US and in China, because of the interest rate partners. But I guess quickly with the US, their economy's going really, really well. Unemployment at 5%, economic growth over 3%. And they're going through this transition. The US effectively led interest rates to zero almost across the globe. And then they didn't move them for a decade. So the US last lifted interest rates, apart from December last year, was in June 2006. So, that's 9.5 years without interest rate movement. Why is it their significance now? Because the US Fed is talking about lifting interest rates again. And they expect to do that 2 to 3 times this year. So the market's pricing in fully that they'll go by July. They may go early in June. Why is that significant? One is that it will see longer-term interest rates will start to rise as they follow the US up. And if I put a slide up here, of interest rates effectively since the 80s, they've come down. Some of you in the room won't point out particulars, but we'll remember the 80s when you were paying 18 to 20%, which was pretty awful.
I was 15, I'll be 15 and I'm locked in for 3 years going, yes!
What have you actually?
I was speaking with a customer today and he sits there and goes, I remember I was paying 18% and I remember I thought I had a real win. I renegotiated the bank to 14%. He's like, yeah, right. He's a rate with a 4 in front of it. It's pretty much unprecedented. So interest rates have essentially fallen over the last 30 years. And a lot of that's to do with the US. Are we entering into perhaps a new interest rate cycle with them finally lifting interest rates and sort of guiding us out of that over the next 2 to 3 years? Perhaps. What I'd say to you is it's not going to be an immediate move, and so don't think that interest rates will go through the world, through the roof because the US has decided to start lifting interest rates. It'll be a very gradual process. For them, as I said, maybe 2 to 3 times this year and then subsequently after that. The market doesn't think that they're going to go that quickly. They're pricing in, so the US has said we'll go 50 to 75 points, the market's pricing about 25. So a little bit of scepticism there from the market, but in saying that, the view is that the interest rates will probably rise. Why is that probably a good thing for Australia? The number one thing is it brings our dollar down as the US dollar starts to rally. That supports our exporters. We are a net exporting nation. That supports economic growth overall. So we believe that that'll have a large kick-up. A few things, I guess, holding the US up at the moment, and I suspect we might get some questions about this, is the election there. So our election campaign's been long. This has been very, very long and really pushed to the extremes. You've got some, I guess, some colourful characters in Trump and Bernie Sanders running around. Our view is that, our house view is that Clinton will probably get in, and she's probably the most moderate of all the candidates, so we wouldn't expect any huge changes to global trade, because some things that both candidates have proposed is quite frightening in terms of shutting down global trade completely, and then you could see a huge recession, like another GFC market would have been. We think the probability of that is very, very low. So I guess that's our view on the US. But overall, doing pretty well. The US Fed looks like they'll lift interest rates, and to reinforce their confidence, they're talking about lifting interest rates during the election campaign. So they obviously don't see a huge issue, I guess, post the election. So very, very important with the US, and once again, as I said, the correlation between Australian interest rates and US interest rates, if I put a 10-year interest rate up here in Australia and a 10-year interest rate in the US, the correlation or the overlap is about 90%. So it's very, very important in terms of using the longer-term rates. The Chinese market, very, very important, as it's our largest trading partner. We see economic growth between 6.5% and 7% there. In line with their official figures. Whether they're actually growing that much, no one actually knows, to be honest. But the best data that we have is sort of supports that official view. So no hard landing. There's some real worries about the Chinese sector growth falling off a cliff and all that sort of stuff. We don't see that. We see largely in line with what they've previously announced. So. There is no shortage of demand for our natural resources. We export obviously a whole lot of goods to China, and particularly natural resources. There's no shortage of demand from their side of the fence, I guess. The issue is supply. There are so many more countries out there that can supply natural resources at a reasonable price to China. So that's you've seen a lot of turmoil in commodity markets and oil markets as well over the last 12 months. And that's really a supply issue. It's not so much a lack of demand from China. So the demand is there, it's just matching that with supply. Oil is fluctuating, and so is iron ore for the most part over the last couple of years. So once again, no hard landings there we see. And I guess that sort of all leads us into interest rates and where are they heading from here. So as I said, NAB's view, our house view, is that we don't see any further interest rate cuts, but we are at odds with the market. The market is seeing interest rate cuts to come. On the whole, though, interest rates are extremely low at the moment, and I don't suspect that they're going to go shooting out of control anytime soon. But in saying that, if you are nervous, if it is an investment decision and it might be tight at current levels, then lock your rates. That's simple advice that we can give you if you are worried about cash flow. But
some of your rates just rates.
A couple of boys might be able to answer that. We're looking at, if you're looking at 2-year fixed, you're looking at sub 4%, I think, a lot of the time. But it also depends. There are different tiered rates for investors now and owner-occupiers, and that's probably the big story. So why is this happening? And this is probably the most important when you're considering a loan, is that about 12 months ago, the banks were advised by APRA that I guess, or the apprehension of the RBA, saying, well, the property market is growing very, very quickly. I mean, while we want a constant growth in the property market, we can't have 15% year on year. That's just ridiculous. But I mean, they want a really constant, I guess, flow of growth. So they made a recommendation that we limit our investor lending to 10% of our books each year. The banks took that on board, basically busted it within a couple of months because the market was going very hot. And then you sort of see APRA's next move was, right, we can start increasing capital charges to the banks for lending in these particular sectors. So how do the banks deal with that? Banks typically pay 70 to 80% of their earnings out to shareholders through dividends. And so if they want to maintain those dividend payout ratios, and then they have an increase in costs, it's going to absorb those margins, and they still need to meet their dividends payout ratios. How do they do that? They increase prices on customers. The other thing is that APRA sort of said, we want you to do that because the market was growing too quickly. On the whole, what's happened is price growth is moderated, as probably Rich has highlighted, but it hasn't crashed, and we don't see it crashing. I mean, and you'll see, I mean, so access to credit is fine. It's good customers. I mean, banks are always open, not just now, any banks that are in segments is always open to good creditworthy customers. I mean, we'll still do 80% no LMI, up to 90% with LMI, all that sort of stuff. That's sort of the market standard. But you will see a tiering of pricing. So the most favourable customers on the bank side will be owner-occupied buying with P&I, essentially on their loans. The least favourable will probably be investors on the interest-only space. But on the whole, I mean, the difference in rates is probably going to be 30 basis points on the whole, which shouldn't really be a deal breaker at this level of interest rates. On the whole, you've got to really find the property is not a 1 or 2 year decision, it's really a 10-year horizon. And taking that longer term view, I mean, interest rates are very low, so it shouldn't be too much of a hurdle. So, and in summarising that, I mean, access to credit is still quite strong. In banks are certainly open to business. And then there are certain, I mean, in the developers market, there's certain things that we probably won't lend to where we would lend 12 months ago, but on the whole, I mean, the average investor can get a loan from any bank. And I'd probably encourage you to go out there and get the best rate you can. Absolutely. But that's it, really. I mean,
we finish? We're on time? I think we are. But there you go.
there you go.
Stand it forever.
We are doing this live streaming with Facebook, so all those people, I think the cameras are one there and one over there, so welcome to the Facebook group. Okay, so we're moving in the right direction. We've got our last guest speaker coming up shortly, Silvana Ciccotti, who heads up our property management arm. And we're going to be talking about the renovations that how you can capital improve the properties and what's the benefits of renovating your current stock that you possibly might have. Just to recap, and it probably follows on what Daniel was saying in regards to your supply and demand. Now, properties go through the same sort of shakedown. People were asking how the market was rolling from the same period last year. Now, last year's figures was sort of indicating around 90%. This is unprecedented. This is this time last year. So through winter time, 90% clearance rates through our auctions, which is absolutely crazy. And then as we hit December, or should we say October, November, December, we had a change down in the market. An oversupply of properties came through, a little bit too much to swallow up, and then you had that media coverage which sort of shook the walls a little bit, which indicated that the market dropped in the inner west. Did a drop down of around 50-odd percent, 56% I think we got down to. Yet the other suburbs like Lower North Shore didn't quite hit those figures. In fact, they had figures around 80-odd percent. So it's all about that supply and demand. We had something like 150-odd properties to swallow in the inner city, so that was a lot of properties going through. Any one weekend we might have around about 48 or 50-odd properties being sold. And that gives us that clearance rate that we're looking for. So at the moment, last weekend through, we're sort of I also asked Jamie from Cooley's auction house, the class clearance rates that you're picking up from the general city market. Or let's go inner west.
Inner west is a bit different, but across the board it's 78%.
78%.
Yeah, 78% through.
Yep.
That goes from Wollongong all the way to Newcastle. We acknowledge Newcastle, came back to Mascot. They were big. Van Hill was strong, Sarah Hills was strong. So inner west market is still booming. We're seeing, this time last year we had 10 buyers go to auction, and only 3 were putting in bid. This year we're seeing 3 or 4, but you're seeing 2 or 3 bid. So there's better quality, better action, better 2 and 3 bid.
I'll segue that to having a good real estate agent. The negotiators. Through. On that note, another beautiful agent, a lovely person. Silvana's been with us for 20 million years, 26 years. I won't make it too much of a joke.
Yes, I was 12 when I started.
Done a wonderful, thank you very much for putting the slide together. You're going to see some amazing shots. It ranges, as you'll see, as they go through. We're going to keep it. I'm going to help you through that, and then it will be over to question and answers. So we're right on target. 7:30. We're aiming to get those out. So keep those questions in your mind to the maker.
Awesome.
Stop at the.
Welcome everyone. We thought we'd use this opportunity to showcase what we can also do as a team here at Property Management. The Callaghers, and that is renovations. We've built a really good renovation team around us. So property managers have been really busy in recent and renovated some great property. Benefits of renovating, capital growth, building your equity, reducing the maintenance. So we all know that those properties that need some maintenance tend to create a lot more maintenance in terms of tenant reporting. We're competing with new stock. In the West is surrounded by new buildings around us, so we're trying to keep up with the new stock around us. And of course, you attract what you present, so attracting a better reference tenant, and also, very importantly, just reducing owner's risk in terms of liability. So, we want to avoid those balconies that are loose, those trip hazards in the carpet, and so on. As I said, we've got a great team around us. These are our 3 main contacts. Why we love them? They're just reliable, they're efficient, so their turnaround time is really streamless, very efficient. Means that days on market is minimal, and properties back on the market, and our owners can start getting some rental.
And we've actually got some of our owners here who've actually gone and utilised the services of the groups that you've just seen. So they can probably, I've got one in my sight, and Gordon Seato sitting at the back, he doesn't even know I'm talking to him. Gordon?
He's ignoring us.
You're normally very talkative.
You're doing enough for both of us.
You've had Extreme Makeover help you. How'd you go with that?
This is unscripted. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'll send you my bill later.
Oh, we're going to hear from Gordon tonight.
You will. I had a unit at Dulwich Hill, and there's a lot of development there, and it's competition. So it was a matter of getting an older style, the red brick, the beautiful red brick units, and competing with these beautiful blonde brick ones. I'm thinking, oh, okay. So I got, shall we say, Extreme, and spent an arm and a leg, and I'm like the
That's not what our figures show.
yeah, right.
We had a sponsor.
Yeah, well, but I'm only kidding. But it was a well worth investment, and the rent did go up pretty high, and I suppose I've got to pay off the renovation, so the amount of increase was fairly substantial. What it does is it reinforces what Silvana said. It gives you a better tenant who's not going to be a student or someone who's sort of fly-by-night backpack or anything like that. So just avoid that.
It's a better reference.
Yeah, a better reference tenant. So those dot points that Silvana mentioned are spot on, and I can't sort of say any more than what I've already said. But from my own personal view, I've got a portfolio of several properties, and I've used different agents, and you can compare the various agents with the various, I suppose, suppliers of services that they have on their books. So it'd be plumbing, electrical, home handyman, and I found that the guys here are the most reliable. You've got to sort of, I suppose, like anything, you've got to keep an eye on them, You got to, when I say keep an eye on them, it's just a matter of saying, look, everything that I've asked for, you've done. Not, you haven't done it, hit them over the head. No, it's not the carrot and stick. It's which one are you going to use? So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't know if they've got any photos up here. This is really
We
got
haven't
me.
got your one, but your renovation's about 2 years old, Gordon?
Oh, probably a bit less than that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and in that period, we've had zero maintenance apart from some.
zero maintenance because I looked at what I had to put into it. So you say, okay, value for money. You look at the appliances, you look at the warranty periods on the appliances, you look at the carpet. If you're scrimping and scraping, it's false economy. I got in commercial quality carpet, not domestic. So oh, look, I'm going to save money and everything, but you're going to have to replace it soon, in a shorter period than if you've got a commercial quality one. Same thing with the paint, get good quality stuff.
Hold you there. Nice. Do you want a big round of applause? That's a very soft
That was a really good example to use. So really basic renovations like just a spruce up with painting the carpets, already you can start seeing some big improvements and greater rental returns. So this was just paint and carpet. That increased the rent by $100. Again, painting carpets, value of the renovation $6,500. And again, $80 rent increase, which was great. A bigger renovation here, which meant that we installed a new kitchen, new appliances, bathroom, vanities, spruce up, painting carpets. This is only a one bedroom, so it increased it by $55. Still a great return. Again, we're climbing at $25,000. A bit more involved. We actually converted we had 2 living rooms. We converted one of the living rooms into a second bedroom. We created, we went from a 2-bedroom terrace to a 3-bedroom. It was a massive improvement. Long-term tenants. Most of these have had long-term tenants in there, so it was a great opportunity to revamp.
An older building too, and that would also increase the overall cost.
Again, sometimes it involves repairs that you can't see, so it can involve quite a lot of roof repairs, spruce up of the gardens, decks, blinds, bathroom, painting, and polished floors. Good increase there. But this is a good example.
Great before and after shot there.
New kitchen, new bathroom, new carpets, painting, white fittings and lines, and a great return on that investment renovation. We're climbing the ladder now here. 56,000 again involved a lot of structural work. Tenants were in this property for 8 years, so we only kept them at really low in order to sort of not encourage a lot of maintenance. But that was a great result, almost doubled.
It's amazing what polished floor does.
Yeah.
Which transforms the areas. Yeah. And white, trying to keep that nice neutral colour. Gives it a nice fresh look.
This is probably one of the biggest ones we've had. This went from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. The whole back section of the property was pulled down. The kitchen inside.
And the photos aren't really.
It doesn't justify.
No, it's not really showing what actually took place. Literally, the back half of the property was completely open plan, and it was spectacular. You would move in, owner would basically move back into that sort of construction.
I think that's the last slide. So guys, if there are any owners here today that you're interested in renovating, feel free to chat to your property managers, come talk to us later. But that's just a snapshot of what we do in terms of, apart from collecting rent and general maintenance and inspections, there's also renovations. Thank you.
And there's Silvana Ciccotti. Yes, features. So to get Silvana up, it's wonderful to see helping and assisting us here today. We are getting to the question and answer part of the night. I'm just seeing what the time actually is because my phone I've decided to turn it on. 7:20. 7:20. See, right on track there. We could actually probably launch into questions and answer if you're okay with all that, guys, and then that way we can filter all the way through. We'll bring them back on. Big round of applause for them all. Facebook, thank you very much. Just quickly, on your tables or on your chairs, you've got the fill-out form. We'd love to hear the survey back on the night. This is how we improve what we do now and hopefully into the future. Maybe there's other questions you've got. Maybe you want to hear about, I don't know, how to do garden makeovers or whatever's a topical part for yourself. Maybe it's superannuation. Maybe it's trying to get financial planning perhaps. Let us know. We would love to hear from you, and then ultimately we can bring up a diligent board of humans in front of you and hopefully get the information you're looking at. Okay, any off the floor questions for either Daniel or Rich or Silvana?
How do you see the impact on house prices in the city, considering there are high debt rates and growth in Yeah, I mean, in terms of, we come down to immigration. I mean, how much with immigration? I mean, Australia is facing a demographic, aging for sure. In saying that, we're probably not suffering it as poorly as, I guess, some of the other developed countries. So, I mean, if you think about the Japanese or something like that, their population is actually shrinking. So, I mean, while immigration is still has slowed recently, we don't see it as a massive issue. We'll see that tick up, I guess, in the unemployment rate at the moment. 12 months ago, we probably needed 15,000 jobs created per month to keep the unemployment the same. Now we probably need 13,000 to 14,000. So I guess without, with high death rates, perhaps slower growth rates in population, and is there more buyers around? It probably hasn't filtered through because immigration should be still important.
I mean, high debt ratio.
Oh, debt. I thought you said debt.
No.
Sorry.
David, can we have the question again?
Wow, sorry.
David?
You can go anywhere.
Can we have the question again?
Demographics is a big.
So maybe let's repeat the question again.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry.
respond back.
So the effect of higher debt ratios on property.
Not high death ratio.
Yeah, not debt. As I
Given that interest rates are increasing as well.
Yeah, I mean, the first interest rate rise from the RBA will be a while away, and that will affect the short-term stuff. Long-term rates will probably start to rise as the US goes up. The sort of ratios need to be taken into account in banks when they go to recession. So you might have seen, and there was first a precedent about 6 months ago, that the banks really started to factor in much higher servicing calculators when they went to do those loans. So I think maybe probably raised from 2% overs to 3%, I guess, as when they over the current rate. So when we obviously go to assess a loan, we don't do it just at current rates, particularly given where they are at the moment. But we started to increase the actual, I guess, affordability rate that we look at. And so that the interest rates will rise eventually, and we need to be buyers need to be cautious of that when they're making their decisions. But I guess from the bank's point of view, we account for it in increasing those service calculators as you go into debt. We haven't seen too many issues with debt. I mean, our bad and doubtful debts are pretty much the lowest that they've ever been. There was a tick up in our latest half-yearly results, but on the scheme of things, I mean, a lot of that's concentrated to particular industries, I guess, and not so much in housing markets. Like we had to write off a couple $100 million in the dairy industry in New Zealand type thing. So it's quite industry specific as opposed to mum and dad's defaulting on their own. That side of the thing is very, very low. Good question.
Yeah, Kerry.
Rich, there's something for you. If I had $750,000 as a line of equity, I could borrow $700,000 as an investment property. Apart from, say, buying a 2-bedroom unit around this area, where else would you suggest, if that was your money, where would you buy? Like if you had a small budget.
So if I had 750 to spend, so
Yeah,
equity.
no, 750.
If I had 750 equity, I'd buy about 3 properties,
Yeah.
4 properties a day. Because I've got leverage. But if I had 750 as a budget, a couple of areas, I guess, look, inner city apartments, not right in the city, but places like Surrey Hills, whatever it is, the little bits in there close to infrastructure is good. I'd even consider properties on the north beaches that you could renovate. Places like Freshwater, Western, maybe now, Corroy, around the beaches there is good. I'd also consider buying houses in the western parts of Sydney. Really close. You've got to be very specific. I won't say specific suburbs, but we've got some intellectual property around specific suburbs. I'd also strongly consider Melbourne and Brisbane. So there's a whole bunch of options. Thanks, Karen. Any other questions?
Rich said that the loan for the single person was the growing
On the demographics.
amount. So I'm wondering from Daniel, is there any issue with borrowing on one-bedroom apartments, so rented, and also what those people don't usually buy the loan and they use aiming at it, because I'm thinking one bedroom is cheaper than buy more.
That's the main question.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the banks traditionally, and I found it strange as well that the banks do typically have issues with studio apartments that are really small, 30 square metre space. And I mean, credit policies are dynamic, and I think given that is a growing trend that we're seeing, certainly in single family, I guess, households are growing in demographics, then we probably just look to amend our credit policy. But from what I understand, I don't think we have too many issues with it, provided it's not a tiny. Yeah. I mean, I think the threshold used to be about
50 squares.
There you go, 50 square metres. Yeah, but there are lenders out there that can do it.
So your question, do you understand, is it should you consider buying one-bedroom apartments? Is that what you're asking?
Are the loan families people that want to pay rent, or they live in the field? So, is looking for one-bedroom apartment to invest in?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely, because you think of the divorce rate is still relatively high. It's still more than one. It's pretty obvious that we want it one bedroom apartment.
The divorce rate often makes us buy a house.
And we've got a divorce lawyer here, right?
No, but it's certainly, I mean, some used to shun one bedroom saying they're too small, they won't get the finance or blah, blah, blah. No, absolutely, I definitely agree with it. I wouldn't have my whole portfolio with 5 one-bedroom apartments in my portfolio, but as one of them, definitely that's what I consider. Yeah. But again, be very careful where you buy it. So if you're going to buy a one-bedroom lender, I'd say that's not a good idea. You buy a one-bedroom in Surrey Hills, fabulous. We're doing really well on time, by the way. We're going to come to you, Gordon. Okay.
I just wanted to say the renovation project's really impressive. And we found that obviously by doing this, you're actually increasing the value of the property as well. So it's not the double sided effect. You've got higher rent with higher value of the property, which then has people with more equity, which then they can go and do something else. So I just think it's wonderful.
And also what it does is it sets the owner up just in case there's a potential sale. You're really pretty much set to go.
Yeah.
So there's wins everywhere. Good feedback.
Gordon,
Do I send my bill to you?
we charge you.
I've got one other question, though.
Yes.
Because from talking to some of my personal clients that I'm having a chat to, and one of it is the back end of last year, the market corrected itself, and in some cases dropped down in price. It wasn't so much that it was the industry, or it wasn't an economy sort of push on that. It was more like government intervention with APRA. The question is, what is APRA? Who is APRA? And why are they interfering into the marketplace?
Right on the start.
So, can you maybe give us a bit of a background on why are they playing around with the mortgages and
Things are going so nicely until I'd argue that they shouldn't.
No, I mean, APRA's there to I guess,
So what is it? What is that?
Well, it's Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, I believe, is the, banking's full of acronyms, but, that is their official term. I guess with that particular recommendation, it did come in consultation with the RBA. So I guess the RBA did make the first comments around house price growth and going, well, and especially when they were very reluctant to cut interest rates because they wanted to stimulate certain parts of the economy. They were worried about the potential effects on real estate. So they made the comments to APRA that that maybe this is a good idea, and when APRA actually goes in and enforces that onto the banks and essentially make sure that they're doing the right thing. Also make sure that we're also, in line with our international commitments. There's a few other things in terms of you might have heard of regulation, and I will not go into detail because that'll take weeks, but that we're really complying with those regulations. So that's it. I guess it's really there's a lot of talk, I guess, in terms of a royal commission into banks, and I guess part of the coalition is saying, well, that's not needed because I guess entities like ASIC and APRA already have those abilities to go into banks. So that's, I guess, give you the framework into it.
Thank you.
I think just to add that APRA just
Too thick, NAB.
APRA is the governing body for the banks, insurances, and superannuation. That's what it is. So they've come out with a view that we need to slow things down, and
those parachutes.
the best way to do it is slow the banks down from lending money.
Yeah,
That's
the RBA
it's simplicity.
but APRA has the means to. So that's too easy not to have a bank stand office for now.
Interesting from our side, because we see a lot of the data from Domain and realestate.com, and we can actually still see the numbers of hits that we're getting from the back end. So as far as like the properties from last year and a bit of the shutdown we had leading up to the end of last year, we actually are still seeing a lot of people looking, watching, seeing, but it's not transacting on the actual Saturday that we're actually conducting our live auctions. We see two parties and they're in there having a go. I suppose that question comes back, when is the best time to buy? Should we be buying now? And that might be coming quickly back to your buy.
Should we buy now?
Yeah, 7:32.
Great question. I guess I was just talking to Gary out back. Actually, one of the slides I put up sort of answers that question. People say, "Oh, the Sydney market's reached its peak, so we won't buy." But if you look at the number of quarters or years that has negative growth versus 3 years positive growth, I say to clients, well, if you want to buy it in a couple of years' time, just save up another 5 or 10%. That's fine. But if you actually buy it and you're going to hold it for the long term, buy when you're ready. Buy when you can afford it. There's little pockets of the year when you can actually buy quite well, but you never get it perfectly right. Just buy when you're ready. Right now, during election campaign, there's a little bit of fear, a bit of unknown, but there is a shortage of stock. I think we're going to have a fabulous spring, to be honest. I think we're going to have quite a little bumper season. So again, there might be a whole bunch more properties to choose from. So my advice is just buy when you're ready.
Probably my very last, sorry Dave, I just want to do one more last question. Elections coming up. This is a question for both of you. Labor's talking about negative gearing and playing around with the policies. How will that impact if Labor gets in and they change the parameters of negative gearing? Not so much if it's good, bad, or indifferent, or how would the impact came in, what's the impact of those?
Obviously, the coalition policy is status quo, so no impact. But if Labor gets in and has the policy for negative gearing only on new properties, I've written quite a lot of media comments about this, but one of the things that will happen is there'll be a bias toward investors buying new properties. Now, they're not always going to be in the new areas. Unfortunately, I think spruikers are going to have a field day. But I think the election will attract investment away. I think there'll be a run, because it's not going to come into the 1st of July 2017. There's going to be a run on existing properties. There's going to be quite an activity in the market. Once negative gearing occurs on new properties only, you'll see that people hang on to their negative gearing properties for longer. So I think there'll be less trade, less transactions happening in the economy long term. So I think that's some of the impacts. And likely we're going to see rents start to rise over time as well.
Yeah. And sorry,
on the back of that, said Labor, what happens to what will be the effect now?
What will be the effect?
Yeah.
I think
the Labor side.
It's going to be just a normal market forces at play. So I don't think there'll be much change to what we're expecting in the market.
In to elections. I mean, I know what the opinion polls say. It's all obviously pretty close. In terms of, I mean, whether I agree with what Rich said in terms of if Labor gets in, that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, no one knows this stuff for sure, but I echo those sentiments. In terms of the interesting thing with the Libs is their proposed changes to the superannuation laws, which makes it, I mean, building up that confidence community and what you sort of do after. There's an argument that that'll actually push more people into buying property and negative gearing. So, on the whole, so that's, I mean, two sides of the story. So, but we'll have to see come 2nd of July. And that's the other thing. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of promises made before elections. Let's see what actually transpires close to it. Because I think I had a chat before the other day. I mean, real estate consumes about 9% of GDP these days. You don't want to pull that up very, very quickly on the handbrake, because what is going to continue to grow the country post that, and so you've got to be prepared.
7:36, done very well.
David, just one last thing before everybody goes. If you wouldn't mind just taking 2 minutes to fill out those feedback forms, we'll collect them on your departure, if that's okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul Creedy, to help create and coordinate tonight, along with Abraham. We'd like to thank Ben, Rosie for helping and assisting, and all the other team members that were here to help make up the cover event tonight. Thank you very much.